I don't know where you are, but you better get yourself back in the ring. I think that he was taking trouble with it. There we are. I think they're going too long. We've got the lone master out the front. Then to give you the here when he's ready to set the lock. There is another standing on
immediately behind the trailer, apparently we've got another Pickford's veteran in there, who started driving for Pickford's when he was 24 and I second place.
absolutely wonderful.
Thank you. Cheers. They shoot each other at the arena in Rolls Royce. How fast do you want them through?
front suspension, which was fitted to Ford motor cars for the next 20 odd years, and it was a very modern motor car in its time. Very comfortable, six-seater, big boot, 3-speed column change gearbox. Notice the sun visor, the external sun visor as an extra on that particular car. Very stylish. In 1951 that was some motor car, and still is today, of course. Next we've got number 63, owned by Antonia Pritchard from just down the road in Child Oakford. She's the second owner. She's owned the car for 6 years and it hasn't been restored. It's the Series 3, 1955 something. And it's an AMC, American Motors Corporation. Still giving 45 miles an hour on the right. But
I should get behind you. dog's gone. Look, just that. I'll put it back at that there, keep the pace, and you come back in.
Thank you very much. We are all ready to roll then with the auto trucks. Obviously successful. He's got more success of starting those side valve Ford engines than I ever managed. Not the best things to crank. It was owned by a company down here quite near Bath at Nortons and Phillip, and then it was sold on. The manufacturing rights were sold on from Auto Truck there, and the name passed on with them. But Auto Truck has become a generic description for these vehicles. So here we have a 1939 Mercury Mer truck, and this in fact is some known as the Mer Tug, because this is a tug vehicle. It's not for carrying goods, it's for drawing goods behind it. Vehicles of this type were very, very popular moving some of the heavier loads such as aircraft and large equipment around airfields and taking to and from goods handling facilities. This particular vehicle was designed to tow not just one trailer, but as many as you could hang on the back, because of course we weren't looking at road traffic constraints here, we're just looking at whatever's going to work for the customer. And this is the 1939 Mercury Mer truck, powered by the 10 horsepower Ford side valve engine. This is a Villiers engine, but marketed under the Wrigley name. Now if you notice, the driver of this truck is actually sitting in the body. Well, this is because he's taking the soft option. The truck wasn't actually designed to be operated this way. Oh, we're going to get a demonstration, look. There's a brave man. Not quite sure which way it's going to go. All right, we're coming. This is a pedestrian-operated truck. It's designed to carry a load and be controlled from the man working in front, a bit like a pony and cart. But this is the Wrigley truck, and this one was really designed for use around the brick kiln. That's why it's so narrow. They could actually get this in through the entrance when they were unloading the brick kiln. Then number 3, and this is definitely a ride-on truck, and this is the Lister from 1941. In 1941, you couldn't go down the road and buy anything like this. You had to order it through the Ministry of Supply. The Ministry of Supply ordered this one, but quite probably it wasn't for any civilian use at all. This would have been for wartime manufacturing. And if you look at the load bed on the back of this truck, it goes up and down. Why, when you can do coach tours with your exhibit, isn't it? And now, another colour, just to show they're not all green or yellow. This is bright poppy red, and poppy red tells you straight away it's Lancing Bagnall. And this is a 1946 Lancing Bagnall
ordered once again by the Ministry of Supply. These are fitted with Morris commercial side valve engines. It's a pre-war pattern Morris commercial side valve engine, but a much heavier and a larger engine than the one that the Mer truck used, which was the Ford unit, which was only a 10 horsepower. This one was rated somewhere around about 14 to 16 horse, depending on how you looked at it. And it's capable of towing 25 tons on firm level ground. Got to say that because it wasn't designed for towing on ground like this, which gives under the weight. This was designed for, once again, working on airfields or large production areas where they're actually pulling heavy weights on firm surfaces. And that was brought to us by Mr. Gilbert. Thank you very much indeed. Now for something a little bit different, we're back to the pedestrian truck again. This one, as you can see, is even more like a motorised wheelbarrow than the previous pedestrian truck we've seen. But it's got a special use, because this is in commercial vehicle terms, we'd call this a two-way tipper. Well, this is just the same. It was bought here at the Auto Jumble at the Great Dorset Steam Fair last year, and has been restored over the winter. And that's the way it works. Look, it tips that way, very, very cunning. Lock the lever and it tips the other way. Simplicity in itself, but ever so useful in a lot of applications. Market gardens, anywhere like that. Very useful little vehicle indeed. This is number 14 in your programme, and we're not quite sure where this worked. It may have worked on the railway, or indeed at the woolen mill at Buckfast-Lee in Devon. Once again there, it might be a little bit longer than the previous vehicles we've looked at, but it's still just as manoeuvrable. It still spins in its own length. And that's brought to us by Mr. Stamp from Newton Abbot. So that's our auto truck parade for us today here, just to kick off the display of the vehicles as they come through the arena. And now we move on, and we're going to be looking at road transport here in the UK, road transport of all types and sizes. No particular order, so if you've got any interest at all in this field, be prepared to be amazed. And we're starting off with the camper van. This is before anyone really had the motorhome concept here in the UK. This was a camper van. This was for those posh weekends, people who could afford a camper van, because this was a bit of a luxury at the time. Even back in 1970, there weren't so many people in the camper van market as there are today. And this is the 1970 Comma Bluebird, and it's toured Europe. It's done over 120,000 miles. And it's been restored and rebuilt to the condition in which you see by Mr. Woodruff from Dover in Kent. Very nicely presented. Great to see it out at the show here. And this is quite a hefty body on there for the vehicle that's moving in. It's only rated as a 1500 weight, that comma underneath, so it's got a full load before it goes anywhere. 1955 Land Rover Series 1. This is the beginning of the Land Rover story pretty well. It's one of the earliest Land Rovers we've got on display this weekend. New to Sussex Fire Service, as you can see, because there's bits of red paint showing through. Well, you might think after that rather smart camper van, we're looking at something a bit scruffy. Well, we are, aren't we? Really scruffy, really tatty. This is the way a Land Rover's supposed to look. They were built as farmers' utilities. 1955 we're looking at here. There were no pretensions. You didn't have a Land Rover to take the kids to school. You had a Land Rover because you had a job to do with it. And they were capable of taking just about everything you threw at them. And that's brought to us by Mr. and Mrs. Trowbridge from Blandford in Dorset. Beautiful example there. Absolutely standard. The only little extra on that is the freewheeling hubs on the front wheel. Now, 1969, the phone coming into the arena now. Very short wheelbase for a six-wheeler. So why is a vehicle this size, a short wheelbase, six wheels, it must have to carry a lot of weight? Well, it was never a tipper, that's the first thought. Perhaps it was a bulk tipper. This was a concrete delivery vehicle. It had one of those big bulk concrete drums rotating on the back. It's upmarket rather, because it's the phone as you see here. And this one, number 85 in your program, is brought to us by the Smith family from Axminster down there in Devon. Get there in the end. Very well restored, with a drop side body on there, as you see, and the Atlas crane. Well, that's an extra, isn't it? These things have happened. It was a concrete lorry to start with. It's now a drop side with its own loading crane. Still obviously designed to carry heavy weight. This only goes to show that the commercial vehicle isn't pensioned off as long as there's a job for it to do. If it's good enough, then when one job's finished, we can stick another body on it and use it again. Very nice example there of extended life on the commercial vehicle. Something we'll be seeing a lot of in the parade today. Now a very specialist vehicle making its way into the arena. This is the 1956 Unipower Hannibal tractor. Bought in 2004 from Rush Green Motors in very poor condition. Restorations have been continued by the owners, that's the Blackwood family, ever since. Powered by the British Gardner diesel engine. 5-cylinder Gardner in this one. Gardner's made diesel engines from 1 cylinder upwards, and this is the 5-cylinder version, a very successful engine that powered buses all over the country. Probably all the buses you went on when you were a child had a 5-cylinder diesel in, from Gardner's. And there's the 5-cylinder Unipower there. It's a timber tractor, short wheelbase and a narrow vehicle with that big winch on the back. The whole idea of the timber tractor was working in standing timber, extracting timber. Those bits of metal hanging on the chains at the back, and it's not just for decoration, that's the land anchors. The vehicle won't operate successfully without the land anchors, because you actually dig those into the ground. The vehicle's capable of doing it under its own weight. You dig those into the ground and use those to hold the vehicle down, it then holds itself down while you're winching in. And underneath the pushchair in the back is the winch. So as it goes round, the secret weapon isn't the child's pushchair, it's that big timber winch in the middle of the wheels. Towards us, and this is the 1967 Bedford J-Type. This is Joe, known to the family affectionately as Joe. It's a Bedford diesel. You see the diesel badge on the front? Well, that was a bit of a sign of the times, because Bedfords were still available even in the 1960s. Bedfords were still offering a 6-cylinder petrol engine on their commercials if you wanted it. But here's the diesel. 1967 S-Type tipper, and it's owned by the Ploughing family from Bournemouth. Regular exhibitors down here seem to go for tippers. They like their tippers. I remember one of these J-Types actually was working out of the slaughterhouse at Wimborne for very many years, and before that I think it had worked on Bournemouth Airfield. I don't know what the history of this one is. It's not a local registration, but a very nice example again. VAK. Well, vision and access. That was the secret of this. Being able to see out the windows and walk through it, because the doors open, slide right back, and you can actually walk right the way through from one side of the cab to the other. It's a flat floor all the way through the cab. This is because the engine's in that funny little plastic box out in the front. The whole van itself is there's nothing deluxe about this. This goes back to British commercial vehicles of 20 years before it was ever built, because it goes back to all the basic standards, nothing else. Austins and Morris and Leyland continued building these. Basically they were to British Road Services specification in the first instance, used by BRS and British Railways, and one or two independent operators also realised how useful they were. for the transportation of goods in the local delivery market. Once again, before the white van man. And this was Wilkins Transport up there in the north of England, who actually operated this one on a daily delivery basis. And that's brought to us from the Isle of Wight. So that's our enthusiasts from the Isle of Wight with the Austin van. Everybody knew these as the Noddy vans. Now a vehicle which is an ongoing restoration project, only recently purchased by Mr. Matthews from West Kingsdowns, and this was owned, it's a 1962 Ploughing, it's the Showman's box truck, and it was purchased in used daily right up until 2012 by Showground family, and it's gone into preservation today. And Mr. Matthews of West Kingsdown is looking after the preservation and restoration of this vehicle. You see there, it started at the front and they're working backwards. Well, you've got to start somewhere, haven't you? And a very nice example here of specialist requirements of the Showman's body with the roll shutter halfway down one side for the transmission of goods from one funfair to another. And also a useful serviceable vehicle, a nice quality truck, the Ploughing, ideal for hauling any Showman's goods trailers that were necessary, or indeed living accommodation again behind the vehicle. And as it goes past, you'll notice that this one's got fair leads and a rollers out on the back. This is the winch, an underfloor winch. Once again, Foden has brought out a specialist vehicle. Here it's a winch tractor for the Showman. Ideal. Frequently use a winch on the soft ground of the showground. Now, thank you to Mr. Joy from Selby for giving us a film to watch. It's the Volvo F88 tractor unit here. The Volvo F88 was the tractor unit that came into this country and made the way clear for Volvo. It built the Volvo reputation here in the UK as an articulated tractor which would outdo the competition. The competition in this country was supplied by vehicles such as Leyland, etc., who were actually not up to the same engineering mark at this time. They were producing heavy quality products, but they weren't producing vehicles that were as fast as these vehicles. They weren't producing vehicles that could be readily available. You couldn't pop down the road and buy one. Volvo suddenly opened a manufacturing plant not long after they decided to hit the British market up in Scotland. And they were really at it. And they were out there actually being competitive and doing the best they could. Volvo 88s are still in use today up and down the country, and I can think of one particularly on round timber haulage. So it's not a soft option, it's a hard-working truck. And this particular one was employed on a fruit and vegetable run from Gaul to London every night. It was bought new, and it started to work straight away, running down fruit and vegetables from the north of England. Probably would have taken root vegetables down from Yorkshire to Covent Garden, and brought back other fruit and vegetables that was imported and being sold at Covent Garden, brought it back to Yorkshire for distribution. So this vehicle was running down to London loaded and coming back loaded on a regular basis, day in, day out, on the old trunk roads and on the new motorways that had opened up by this time. And this is the Volvo F88. Now in the livery of our local haulage and civil engineering contractor Maidman. This is the four-wheel drive Bedford. Very, very much the ex-military Bedford when you look at it. But this is where these Bedfords actually were purchased from. When they were demobbed, they were very useful vehicles, and somewhere you could buy one of these on the civilian market as well if you wanted to. It was the four-wheel drive Bedford's option. This looks very much military spec with the hard-wearing metal bed on there. They were only rated for relatively light work, but they were really over-engineered, and they carry a good weight on there. Plus, of course, you've got the off-road capability. So this is absolutely right, and you can imagine it in the applications here of civil engineering and plant hire contractors off-road, particularly in this end of the country where there's a lot of quarrying applications. So, a very nice example there in the livery of Maidment. Thank you very much indeed. Now the Scammell Explorer. Scammell Explorer started life in 1950, and here we have one of the very early examples. The wartime Scammell, very similar configuration, was the four-wheel drive Pioneer. This is the post-war six-wheel drive Explorer. You see the name on it? It's Jumbo. Well, Jumbo, so-called, because when it was demobbed, it went off to work for a garage in Cirencester, and then Bothams bought it to pull their elephant truck round on their travelling circus. This was in the good old days when if you went to a circus you actually saw real live animals, and they were monitored. It wasn't all circuses that were cruel to their animals. There were some really well looked after animals on the circus circuit, and their vehicles consequently echoed this as well. They were well maintained vehicles. And there's the 1950 Scammell Explorer, and it's owned now by Mr. Parker from Toaster, up there in Northants, and you can see he's in for a good weekend, hence the headgear. It takes all sorts to operate Scammells at the shows. And there's the Scammell Explorer from 1950. This was a recovery vehicle designed to cope with the heavier armour that was being supplied to the British Army after the Second World War, when the four-wheel drive Pioneers were declared to be obsolete. And the Scammell Explorer carried on right into the late 1970s in operation in some military areas. Now number 55. 55, this is the Comma produced by Roots Group from 1960. Now listen to that engine there just ticking over in front of the commentary box. The engine that you can hear is the TS3 diesel. Well, what's so alarming about a TS3 diesel? Well, simply nobody thought it'd work. When this lorry first hit the roads, the press were very critical about how well it was going to do, because it had this very, very peculiar engine. And if you want to have a look at the engine, there's another one there, up there for display between the back wheels. That is the TS3. The TS3 is a two-stroke, three-cylinder, six-piston diesel engine. So sit down there and work that one out. I can see you trying. Well, if you're finding it difficult to comprehend, you'll come and have a look at this engine that's on the back of the lorry here that's on display that Mr. Davis has brought up from Paynton in Devon. And he's gone round with a felt tip pen and marked how it works, actually written it on the engine. So that'll give you a little bit of a helping hand there to try and work out how this phenomenal diesel engine actually worked. And it worked very, very successfully. TS Tilling Stevens, it was a British engine, British built, British design, and used there by the Roots Group here in the UK, very, very successfully. A very powerful engine, developed a lot of power very quickly through the red bands, and was very successful. Beautifully restored, because it has been under restoration now for quite a number of years. But finally, Mr. Davis has brought it up from Paynton in Devon in this condition you see today. Thank you. Now the Scania 112. This was only one of 5 built. And the reason for this is because it's got the larger cab on there. We've seen the big cab for export purposes fitted onto the ERF alongside the Arena. Well, this big cab wasn't fitted for export purposes. It was fitted so that the haulage operator here in this country could take deliveries across to Eastern Europe. There's a turn up for the books. When you're driving on the motorway today, how many vehicles of ours are going to Eastern Europe and how many vehicles of theirs are coming over here. We don't produce anything here that the Eastern Europeans want anymore, but we're buying everything in from abroad. We're using foreign hauliers, obviously, are coming in and running quite successfully through our country now. And thanks to the European community, they're now able to take local work here in the UK when they arrive. And so our local hauliers are getting increasingly squeezed by competition from abroad, right on their own doorstep. This particular Scania was built for use on the Eastern European run and has been brought to us by the Taylor family from Hook in Wiltshire. Very nicely presented, unusual vehicle. Now the Bristol coming towards us. Yes, this articulated vehicle, rather strange looking flat-fronted vehicle, is the Bristol, and this is the articulated tractor as you see, ex-British Road Services, based in Kentish Town up in London in the 1970s. It was on regular runs to the Sheffield Steelworks and recovered from a scrapyard and rebuilt from 2005. Once again you'll notice there the Gardner diesel engine. Rather a slow revving but a very reliable British diesel engine. It was Gardner's that brought diesel engines forward from the continental beginnings. Gardner's actually worked out how to make them run successfully and reliably. And this was built for British Road Services, really by British Road Services, because Bristol became part of the same group of companies due to nationalisation and the formation of British Road Services.